Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're reflecting on the lives that shaped our world as we look at notable figures who passed away today in the USA. In a world where we lose legends, artists, activists, and ordinary people who leave extraordinary marks, it's important to honor and remember their legacies. Let's take a moment to acknowledge their impact on history and our lives. Stay tuned as we dive into today's tributes.
Some stars don't wait to rise. They blaze across the sky, brilliant, breathtaking, and unforgettable, even if only for a short time. Aiden Zhang was one of those stars. Born in 2009, in the heart of America, Aiden grew up with dirt in his veins and a dream in his heart. By the time most kids were learning to ride bicycles, Aiden was already flying on wheels, on tracks, and eventually across podiums. To him, motocross wasn't just a sport, it was freedom. It was life. By the age of 10, Aiden was already a name to watch on the U.S. youth motocross circuit. Focused, fearless, and fueled by raw passion, he trained harder than anyone, stayed longer at the track, and studied every curve, jump, and opponent. He didn't just ride the bike, he became it. He had a natural flow, a rhythm that defied his young age. He made difficult jumps look effortless. He took turns with precision. And most of all, he raced with heart. Those who watched him ride saw something rare, purpose in motion. He was a rising star, one destined for greatness. The sponsors began noticing. The motocross world began whispering his name, but he just smiled. He wanted to race. He wanted to fly. On June 28, 2025. During a competitive youth event, Aiden Zhang was involved in a tragic racing accident. Despite the efforts of emergency teams, he passed away at just 16 years old. A brilliant future gone in a flash. A sport silenced in heartbreak. But Aiden wasn't just a racer. He was a light, a friend, a son, a brother, a dreamer who dared to chase speed like it was his birthright. And in that chase, he inspired a generation. Aiden, you lived without fear. You rode with joy, grit, and grace. You taught us that age doesn't limit courage, and that passion has no ceiling. You didn't wait for the world to call you a champion. You lived like one every single day. You fell, you got back up, you lost, you learned. And when you flew, the world looked up and said, that kid is something special. Rest easy. Aiden Zhang, though your time here was short, your impact was deep. The tracks you left behind aren't just on dirt, they're in our hearts. You'll always be remembered not just for how fast you rode, but for how fiercely you lived. Ride in peace. Champion, the sky is now your course. He wasn't just a familiar face on television, he was family to millions of viewers who grew up watching the adventures of Hazard County. With his southern charm, impeccable comedic timing, and a heart as big as his grin, Rick Hurst carved out a place in pop culture that will never fade. Born on January 1, 1946, in Houston, Texas, Rick Hurst grew up with a passion for storytelling. He studied acting, trained on stage, and honed a craft that would later bring him into homes across America, not as a Hollywood leading man, but as something far more special, a beloved character actor with soul. In the late 1970s, Rick landed the role that would define his career, Deputy Cletus Hogg on the hit show, The Dukes of Hazzard. As the lovable, bumbling sidekick to Boss Hogg, Cletus wasn't just comic relief, he was the heart and humor of the series. With every chase, every crash, and every wide-eyed expression, Rick made Cletus unforgettable. He brought warmth and relatability to a character that could have been a punchline but in Rick's hands, became pure joy. For fans. The show was about adventure, family, and rebellion, but it was Rick Hurst who made it feel like home. He didn't just play a deputy, he became an icon of a simpler, sweeter era of television. Beyond Hazard County. Rick's career spanned decades from appearances in Sanford and Son, MASH, and The Love Boat, to film roles and voice work. He was versatile, dependable, and always left a smile behind. Whether he was on a sitcom, a drama, or shaking hands at a fan convention, Rick always brought his down-to-earth charm with him. On June 26, 2025, Rick Hurst passed away at the age of 79. The cause of death was not publicly disclosed, and though the curtain has closed on his remarkable life, the echoes of his laughter and his legacy remain. Rick, you made us laugh when we needed it most. You reminded us that comedy could have kindness, that silliness could still be smart, and that the sidekick often holds the biggest heart in the story. You brought comfort to living rooms, signed autographs with joy, and treated every fan like a friend. You were more than clean. You were a Southern gentleman, a gifted actor, and a face we could trust week after week, year after year. Rest in peace, Rick Hurst. The roads of Hazard may be quiet now, but your laughter still echoes down every curve. Your warmth still lingers in every rerun, and your legacy will live on, wherever good OL boys still ride and hearts remember. In the city of Denton, Texas, on March 15, 1943, a boy was born into a musical household of deep gospel roots. His name was Sylvester Stewart, but the world would come to know him as Sly Stone, a name that would ring through generations. Like a funk-charged lightning bolt. Raised in Vallejo, California, Sly showed signs of genius early. He could play multiple instruments by the time most kids were still learning to ride bikes. He wasn't just musically gifted, he was visionary, genre-defying, and rebellious in the most beautiful way. In the late 1960s, at the height of civil unrest and counterculture awakenings, Sly Stone formed Sly and the Family Stone, a band like no other. Integrated in race and gender, their mere presence on stage was revolutionary. But their sound? That was the stuff of a whole new movement. Funk, soul, rock, and psychedelia. Sly fused them all into a sonic gumbo that moved your feet and shook your spirit. Then came the anthems. Everyday People, A Call for Unity. Thank You Faladin, Be Mice, Elf Agenra, Unapologetic Groove. Family Affair, Intimate, Haunting. Timeless. In his prime from 1968 to 1973, Sly was unstoppable. Not just a frontman, but a cultural force. His band lit up Woodstock, shook television sets, and blew the roof off arenas across America. He wasn't just leading a band, he was leading a generation to get up, stand up, and groove forward. But with brilliance often comes burden. Behind the glittering outfits and infectious basslines was a man haunted by pressure, paranoia, and pain. Fame came fast, and so did the vices. Drugs, erratic behavior, and long disappearances took their toll. Sly drifted from the spotlight, and the world wondered where its funk prophet had gone. For decades, he lived in shadows, sometimes homeless, often reclusive, while his music continued to inspire everyone from Prince to Public Enemy, from hip-hop to EDM, and though he rarely spoke, his legacy never stopped speaking for him. On June 9, 2025, Sly Stone passed away at the age of 82. After battling complications from COPD, his body may have faded, but his rhythm still pulses through the veins of modern music. Sly Stone wasn't just a musician, he was a movement, a master of funk, a preacher of peace, color, unity, and raw groove. He told us that we were all everyday people, that there was power in being yourself, that love, funk, and freedom were all part of the same beat. Sly, you didn't just dance to the music, you made the world dance to your music. Your voice, your style, your truth, they live on. In every beat, every bassline, every boundary-breaking artist who dares to be bold. Rest easy, brother, the stage is quiet now. But the funk never dies. He was the smile on every bedroom wall, the voice that made hearts flutter and radios light up. With boy-next-door charm, twinkling eyes, and a heart full of melody, Bobby Sherman became one of the most beloved teen idols of his era and a quiet hero in the years that followed. Born on July 22, 1943, in Santa Monica, California, Robert Cabot Sherman Jr. didn't come from fame. He made it. A talented singer, multi-instrumentalist, and actor, Bobby's rise was born from genuine talent and relentless dedication. He got his first major break in the 1960s, performing on the hit musical show Shindig, but it was his role as Jeremy Bolt in the TV series Here Come the Brides that truly launched him into Superstone. With that role came adoration, and with adoration came hit records. Then came the music. In 1969, he released Little Woman, a catchy, heartfelt tune that soared to number 3 on the Billboard charts. What followed was a string of gold records, chart-topping singles like Julie, Do You Love Me, and Easy Come, Easy Go, and sold-out tours filled with adoring fans and deafening screams. During his prime, from 1969 to 1972, Bobby Sherman was everywhere on magazine covers, on stage, and on television. But unlike many who came and went, Bobby brought a genuine warmth and humility that made him more than a pop product. He was someone fans felt they truly knew. But fame, for Bobby, was never the final destination. In a surprising and inspiring turn, he stepped away from the spotlight in the late 70s to pursue a life of service. He trained as an EMT and became a reserve police officer, dedicating himself to helping others rather than being idolized. He even helped build a training facility for emergency responders, choosing purpose over applause. On June 24, 2025, Bobby Sherman passed away at the age of 81. The cause was not publicly disclosed. And while his passing was quiet, the legacy he left behind still echoes like the soft chords of a love song that never left the airwaves. Bobby, you gave a generation its soundtrack. You made hearts skip, radios sing, and lives brighter. You didn't just perform, you connected. And then, when the stage faded, you gave even more, saving lives, serving your community, and inspiring countless others to lead with heart. You were more than a teen idol. You were a man of courage, kindness, and integrity. May you rest in eternal peace. Bobby Sherman. From the screaming crowds of yesterday to the quiet gratitude of today, you'll always be loved, always remembered, and forever young in the memories of those who grew up with your voice in the background of their lives. In the heart of Los Angeles, California, on March 21, 1973, a brilliant light entered the world. Her name was Ananda Lewis. Beautiful, bold, and fiercely intelligent, Ananda wasn't just destined for the spotlight, she was destined to change what that spotlight stood for. From a young age, Ananda was passionate about speaking truth, standing up for others, and being more than just a pretty face on a screen. She studied history at Howard University, grounding herself in knowledge and awareness, and it wouldn't be long before she brought that depth straight to the national stage. Ananda's rise began in the mid-1990s, when she became a host on Bet's Teen Summit, a groundbreaking show that didn't just entertain teens, but empowered them. She tackled real topics, racism, drugs, peer pressure, sex education, with honesty and compassion. She wasn't lecturing, she was listening, learning, and leading. But it was on MTV where Ananda Lewis became a household name as one of the network's most recognizable faces in the late 90s and early 2000s. She interviewed stars, hosted the red carpet, and brought substance to the celebrity spotlight. She wasn't afraid to challenge her guests, to dig deeper, and to always bring her authentic self to the screen. In 2001, Ananda launched The Ananda Lewis Show, her own daytime talk show, and though it ran only one season, it was a testament to who she was, unapologetically real, unafraid to ask tough questions, and unrelenting in her mission to uplift and educate. She could have chased fame, but instead, she chose purpose. In the years that followed, she focused on motherhood, activism, and wellness. She trained as a carpenter. She became a doula. She stayed grounded in truth, even when the cameras faded. Then came her most personal and painful battle. In 2020, Ananda revealed she had been battling breast cancer in private for 2 years. She spoke out not for sympathy, but as a warning, urging other women, especially Black women, to get mammograms early. Her honesty was raw, her courage unshakable. On June 11, 2025, Ananda Lewis passed away at the age of 52, surrounded by loved ones. Her departure was too soon, but her impact was timeless. Ananda, you were more than a host. You were a healer, a truth teller, a sister, a mother, and a warrior. You gave a generation of young people, especially young Black girls, a role model who looked like them, spoke for them, and stood beside them. You didn't just interview celebrities. You interviewed the culture. You didn't just show up on screen, you showed up for people. Your voice was powerful, your presence unforgettable, your legacy eternal. Rest well, Ananda. Your light still shines in every girl who dares to be fearless, every voice that speaks with truth, and every heart you taught to believe in its worth. We miss you, we honor you, and we will never forget you. In the sun-drenched town of Hawthorne, California, on June 20, 1942, a boy was born who would go on to change the sound of American music forever. His name was Brian Douglas Wilson, a musical prodigy, a tortured genius, and the soulful architect behind one of the most iconic bands of all time, the Beach Boys. As a child, Brian showed an uncanny ability to pick up harmonies, teach himself piano by ear, and replicate intricate melodies after just one listen. Raised in a house filled with music but marred by a stern father, Brian's escape became the sounds he created in his mind, rich, layered, full of emotion. In the early 1960s, alongside his brothers Carl and Dennis, cousin Mike Love, and friend Al Jardine, Brian co-founded the Beach Boys. What began as fun surf music quickly transformed into something far more complex. Under Brian's visionary direction, he wasn't just writing songs, he was painting with sound. Between 1964 and 1967, Brian Wilson entered his prime, orchestrating sonic masterpieces that redefined what pop music could be. At just 24, he masterminded Pet Sounds, an album so emotionally vulnerable and musically daring, it left even the Beatles in awe. God Only Knows, Wouldn't It Be Nice, and Caroline, No weren't just songs, they were diary entries set to orchestral symphonies. Then came Good Vibrations, a single so intricate, so experimental, it was dubbed a pocket symphony. Brian layered over 90 hours of recordings into 3.5 minutes of pure magic. He wasn't just ahead of his time, he was somewhere entirely his own. But genius often walks hand in hand with pain. Behind the sunny harmonies was a man battling internal storms. Brian struggled with mental health issues, substance abuse, and intense pressure to always produce perfection. For decades, he withdrew from the spotlight, lost in a haze of fear and silence. Yet, like the tide returning to shore, his resilience brought him back time and time again. He returned to touring, he released solo work, and in 2004, he finally unveiled Smile, the mythical album he abandoned in the 60s to worldwide acclaim. The boy from Hawthorne had found his peace, his applause, and his voice again. June 11, 2025, Brian Wilson passed away peacefully of natural causes at the age of 82. The world lost not just a musician, but a dreamer who dared to translate emotion into melody, a man who turned surfboards and California girls into symphonies, who taught the world that vulnerability was not weakness, but beauty. Brian, your songs were not just hits, They were lifelines. You gave voice to longing, to joy, to sadness, and love. You showed us that it's okay to feel deeply, that it's okay to dream in harmonies and live inside melodies. Your music will echo as long as waves kiss the California shore. As long as summer lives in our hearts, as long as someone sings. Wouldn't it be nice while falling in love? Thank you, Brian Wilson, for the vibrations, for the sounds, for the soul. From the silver plains of Kentucky to the glittering studios of Hollywood, Chris Robinson's journey was nothing short of dramatic, just like the roles he brought to life for decades. Born on November 5, 1938, in West Palm Beach, Florida, Chris was a man of quiet charm and intense presence. Long before he became a fixture on American television screens, he served in the U.S. Navy, shaped by discipline and a strong moral compass. But deep inside, Chris had the heart of a storyteller, and soon, that heart would beat through television screens across the nation. He began acting in the 1960s, appearing in film and television. But it was the world of soap operas where Chris would become a legend. His most iconic role came in the 1970s when he stepped into the shoes of Dr. Rick Weber on General Hospital. With his commanding voice, steady gaze, and a tenderness that captivated millions, Chris became a central figure in one of daytime television's most dramatic love triangles. Viewers laughed, cried, and grew up watching Rick Weber navigate heartbreak, healing, and hospital hallways. As General Hospital grew into a phenomenon, so too did Chris Robinson. But his talent couldn't be contained to one role. He later appeared in The Bold and the Beautiful, bringing gravitas and warmth to yet another chapter of television drama. Through the 1980s and 90s, Chris's face was as familiar as morning coffee. His roles weren't just characters, they were companions to generations of viewers. He played men with flaws, heart, strength, and conviction. He brought depth to daytime, turning soap opera melodrama into genuine emotional resonance. And off-camera, Chris was just as dignified, a devoted father, a man of faith, and an advocate for young actors. He carried himself with quiet grace in a business that so often demanded flash. But like all stories, even the longest-running ones, his came to a close. On June 9, 2025, Chris Robinson passed away at the age of 86 due to heart failure, and with his final curtain came a quiet pause in the world of daytime television, as if the entire genre stopped to reflect on a man who helped build it. Chris, your voice calmed storms, your eyes carried wisdom, your presence made hospital sets feel like sacred ground. You gave us stories of love lost and found, of integrity, heartbreak, and healing. You showed us that daytime drama could have real soul, that beneath every monologue was truth, and behind every character, a man of honor. To soap opera fans, you were a constant. To your peers, a mentor. To your family, a foundation. May you rest in peace, Chris Robinson. Your scenes may have ended, but your legacy rolls on, in reruns, in memories, and in the hearts of those who still believe in the power of a great story, well told. From church pews to sold-out concert halls, Wayne Lewis dedicated his life to melody, harmony, and soul. A gifted keyboardist, composer, vocalist, and visionary, he co-founded one of the most iconic R&B groups of the 1980s, Atlantic Starr, and helped write the soundtrack to countless love stories around the world. Born in the late 1950s, Wayne Lewis grew up surrounded by music, faith, and family. Raised in White Plains, New York, alongside his brother David, he was influenced by gospel, Motown, and the rich textures of soul. But it wasn't until the late 1970s that the world would hear what he could truly do. With his brother David and a group of close friends and talented musicians, Wayne co-founded Atlantic Starr. At a time when R&B was evolving, the band carved out a space that was uniquely theirs: rich vocal harmonies, heartfelt lyrics, and melodies that felt like warm embraces. As a keyboardist and lead vocalist, Wayne Lewis became one of the driving creative forces behind the group's sound: smooth, emotional, unforgettable. The 1980s were their golden years, and Wayne was at the heart of it. Hits like Secret Lovers, a bittersweet tale of forbidden romance, and the timeless wedding anthem, Always, were more than chart toppers. They were moments etched into people's lives. Wayne's voice, soft yet powerful, became synonymous with sincerity. His keys layered every track with feeling. Whether singing about devotion or heartbreak, he made every note matter. But unlike many artists chasing fame, Wayne Lewis moved with humility. He didn't seek the spotlight, he sought connection. Fans remember not just his voice, but his grace, his warmth, and the authenticity that radiated through every performance. Though Atlantic Starr's mainstream presence faded in the late 90s, their music never left the hearts of those who grew up with them. Wayne continued creating, performing, and inspiring, always committed to excellence and heart in equal measure. On June 5, 2025, Wayne Lewis passed away at the age of 68. The cause was not publicly disclosed, a reminder of how quietly he often lived, even as his music spoke volumes. Wayne, You gave us more than music. You gave us moments. Slow dances under soft lights, goodbyes that hurt less with your harmonies playing, promises whispered to the tune of always. You helped people say I love you when words failed. You helped others heal from heartbreak. And you reminded all of us that love is always worth singing about. Rest well. Wayne Lewis, your voice still echoes in wedding halls, quiet car rides, and the softest corners of our hearts. Though you're no longer with us in person, your music will always be.